So UFC 146, Alistair Overeem's out. Junior Dos Santos now taking on Frank Mir. And a little disappointing, but Frank Mir's won 3 in a row. Frank Mir was the ex-UFC champion, and a lot of people are like, does he automatically just get the shot because he's the ex-champion and he's got a name? I think a lot of people have seen Frank Mir lose, and they don't really see him as a champion per se. But Frank Mir has a name, and he has won 3 in a row, and his last win was just sick, the way he, ripped off Nogueira's arm. And if you consider Nogueira a top-rated heavyweight, I mean, he just demolished his arm. He beat Nelson last Memorial Day weekend in Vegas, beat him up pretty bad. And then he fought Crow Cop back in UFC 119, where he knocked him out at the end. But if you remember, his last loss, not just the Brock Lesnar loss, his last loss was to Shane Carwin. And that was a first-round knockout where he just couldn't take the punches. So I bet a lot of people are going to start saying that, Junior Dos Santos is going to pull a Shane Carwin, and just knock Frank Mir the hell out. And that's going to be the consensus. Most predictors or guys doing predictions are going to say that. Okay, I'm going to say a little bit more than that. Frank Mir, unfortunately, I think thought he looked really slow in his last fight against Nogueira. He looked really slow. I thought he looked slower than Nogueira. And Nogueira, to me, is a pretty slow heavyweight these days. I know I might get some heat for saying that, but if you watch the fight, I mean, Frank Mir really looked slow. And I thought it looked like he was going to lose until he got down to the ground and ripped Nogueira's arm, just ripped it apart. But before that, I didn't see anything positive in Frank Mir from his stand-up. It looks like, he put on a lot of weight for Brock Lesnar and a lot of muscle mass and really slowed him down. So if the fight stays standing up, Frank Mir is getting knocked the hell out. But if you think about what would happen if the fight went down to the ground, I think Sagano is supposed to be, really high up in jiu-jitsu, but I don't think his ground game is really that good. Definitely not as good as Frank Mir's. Frank Mir is the best heavyweight when it comes to the ground. He proved it against Nogueira. Everybody thought Nogueira was the best. Frank Mir, definitely the best. I always wondered if he was. Proved it to me. Now I know. Frank Mir, best jiu-jitsu heavyweight of all time. So Junior Dos Santos is taking on the best jiu-jitsu heavyweight of all time. Kind of like the Gracie of the heavyweight division, even though he's not Brazilian. So Sagano, he has to be careful. Really careful. Keep his distance. Not lose energy. And really plan his punches, because one little slip-up and it can go to the ground. You know how fights are. They go to the ground a lot. Not as much in the heavyweight division as some of the other divisions, but pretty quickly most fights do end up on the ground. So Junior Sagano Dos Santos, negative 550. Betting favorite. Negative 550. You got to bet $550 on Dos Santos just to win 100. Frank Mir, positive 375. And I don't think this line is going to tighten. I think it's going to widen. I think, Frank Mir will probably be positive 450 by the time this fight happens. So, if you don't see Frank Mir getting knocked out, if you don't think that's going to happen, which I do, I think it's going to happen. And the reason why is because Frank Mir is just so goddamn slow. His stand-up is bad. But if you don't see him getting knocked out by Dos Santos, then you must see him winning the fight. Because if it goes 5 rounds, Frank Mir is going to submit Dos Santos. If you look back at Dos Santos' career, and you look back at some of his early fights, there's a fight where he gets submitted pretty quickly on the ground. And I know Verdum never got a chance to submit him. Stefan Struve never got a chance. Crow Cop wasn't going to submit him. Gilbert Ivel wasn't going to submit him. Roy Nelson, Shane Carwin, Gonzaga. If he was going to get submitted, it would have either been by Gonzaga or Velasquez, and Velasquez didn't get a chance. So, he did fight a lot of stand-up fighters, a lot of guys who aren't that good at submissions, and the ones who were, he knocked them, whatever, I don't want to curse, but he knocked them out pretty fast. So, as far as Dos Santos' game plan, it's going to be to knock Frank Mir out. And he's probably going to do that. And if you look, back at his career, anytime he fought somebody who was a good wrestler or better with submissions, more versatile on the ground, he knocked him out fast. So Frank Mir, slower than Velasquez for sure. He's going to be easier to hit. He's a bigger target. He's getting knocked out. But if Dos Santos messes up and he slips up and he doesn't catch him right away, then Frank Mir is going to win the fight. That's my prediction. Don't bet on Frank Mir. He's too slow. But just know that Dos Santos has something to watch out for in this fight. If he doesn't get the job done early, you might see him get submitted for the first time in UFC. That's my prediction. What do you guys think? Do you think that's pretty much right on, or did I leave something out? It's something that I didn't say. Is Dos Santos good on the ground, better than Frank Mir? I mean, what do you think? I think it's pretty easy. Dos Santos standing up, Frank Mir ground. That's the deal.